What about quiet? Platt's on TV.
Sergeant Trudy Platt.
Wednesday.
The city is in imminent danger.
We'll help you any way we can.
A case that will bring Chicago Fire and Chicago PD together for a two-night crossover event.
Both bombs use military-grade C4.
Where the fate of a city
He's escalating.
hangs in the balance.
Everybody off the train and onto the platform right now!
The Chicago Fire and Chicago PD crossover event, Wednesday and Thursday on NBC.
With me getting blown out of my shoes.
Okay. That's an image.
It starts out with a bang, and it goes a little crazier from there, trying to find out who did this.
You know, when I first heard about the episode, the writers told me, "Oh, Platt gets blown up," and I'm like, "What?" It's like when they got shot, they're like, "Oh, you get shot," and they never know that we're actors and we're insecure. They need to be like, "But you live."
Yeah, seriously, we're like, oh great, that's how I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
Super.
No shoes, just gone.
Just blown out of my shoes.
The first part of it is that what I like about it is it sort of comes in through a relationship, which is nice. It's like Antonio and Brett's characters are kind of no longer dating, maybe a little bit, and then the outs, and so they sort of bring us together in the episode, which I think is great, that we're just like hinging on something real instead of like, oh, there's a fireman, there's a policeman, we just happen to be here. So I like that our worlds are actually intertwined.
But yeah, it's still really fun. It's still really fun to be able to go to each other's sandboxes. You know, it really is. I think it also has to do with the fact that we're in a town where you don't have the pressure of constantly being under a microscope. That when you're off duty, you're pretty much off duty, and you get to have a life and go to a restaurant, and you know, it's just, you're not constantly surrounded by paparazzi or any of that crap. So you get to actually have a life and make actual friendships. So I think that it has a lot to do with where we are.
Yeah, because everyone's away sort of from their friends and family, and so we were able to sort of, it's kind of like school all over again. Like, we're just kind of forming these amazing bonds. And like last night we left the dinner, Jesse, Patty, and I, in Jesse's car, GMC. And we just sat we were so tired, and we're like, we have to go home. We sat in the car for an hour talking. Like, we're going to see each other in 3 hours. Go home. But it was just, yeah, it's fun. I kept my day job during season 1. I was a paralegal through season 1. So I was like, I don't know if it's going to last.
Exactly. I mean, actors don't count on this at
gosh,
all.
no.
So we're all just like, well, I'll probably get fired pretty soon. So.
She's getting blown out of her shoes.
Yeah, I'm getting blown out of my shoes, so.
You were right to worry.
I was right to worry.
You shouldn't have let go of that fear. Because.
So this is, I mean, never in a million years would I have thought I would have been a regular on a TV series that makes it to 100. It's just, never.
Last night, Dick Wolf at the dinner was like, and to another 100, and we were like, that's crazy that he's even thinking like that, but it's good to have like someone so positive and optimistic and hopeful at the helm. It's good.
I feel like we're on the tail end of something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? People actually don't even, television is rarely made this way anymore. So I feel really lucky to be a part of something that is almost feels like a tradition, like television used to be made or something like that.
Rom also said that in this lot, which used to be a steel mill, which is like the bread and butter of Chicago, this lot employs 8,500 people through like all of our Chicago shows, through Empire, there's like so many shows right here. It's kind of incredible.
Really, really great.
Well, you know, I mean, for Antonio, there's a couple things going on. He's got his daughter that he's dealing with, some issues with her, and you know, there's something that just affects everybody that happens, and just, you know, it's gonna, you know, again with the magic of the crossovers and these producers and how NBC does it, it's gonna be something incredibly huge and big, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's actually
we're trying to catch a guy, but we don't want him to know that we're on to him. So we have to kind of sneak around, and we come up with a bright idea, which is to use some of the characters from Fire who have a relationship in a kind of ancillary way with this guy, and we do a little kind of, smoke and mirrors setup thing using them to be kind of undercover cops in a way. And but it's logical and believable. It's not one of those cute little things where give her a gun and let her go. It's cool.
And it happens to be, for Antonio too, like I was saying, there's a couple things going on with that, and then it's his sister and Brett, who, he's had relations with. So, it's a little it's hard for him to have to see them go undercover, and it's it's tricky, and so it's I think it's a pretty emotional one for him. It makes sense, when especially with what we're dealing with, and the bombing and how it's everybody gets involved, like in real life, the fire department, police, EMTs. So I think it's that's actually something that would happen on a more day-to-day basis. But not every episode could be like that. But so when we have that one opportunity to show something that's true to life, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that can be fun too, the freezing in a way, because it draws you closer together just to keep warm. But the first thing you need is a good script, and consistently, that's one of Dick's kind of strong points, and then you try not to mess it up, and maybe even add to it, and have fun doing it.
I came on the second episode of Fire.
Yeah, we were on
That's right. Oh my gosh.
We were on the second episode.
right.
I was thinking, okay, this is a show, and they asked me to do it, and I thought, I think I can do some of this character, but my main intention was to help them have their show succeed. Mm-hmm. It was about, because they were in episode 2. They hadn't aired yet.
Right.
They were nervous. They were a little tight and trying to find their legs. When and I think, we were more older, experienced, except for like Eamon. Right. And so, you come in and they ask you to do a show, you want to kind of help, bring some stability and help them succeed. That's kind of part of your job. And maybe that's the attitude that helped us create our own thing.
Yeah, I mean, to think, and I arrested him on Fire, and helped them, with their case, and
yeah,
who would have thought,
all they did was try to
get
have
100
Casey
days
killed. I don't understand why they hold a grudge, threatened his girlfriend. So what? I don't get it.
Let's make a show.
I mean,
Let's make Chicago PD.
That's
and
it.
you guys are going to work together.
That's right.
Without the fans, especially the ones that have been there from the beginning, their loyalty and just commitment to watching our show and taking this ride along with us. I mean, it's because of them that we're here.
That's
right.
And that's who you make the show for.
Yeah. And we welcome all the new fans that are coming on.
That's right.
So basically, with PD, there's been a couple bombings that have happened, and we don't know whether it's a terrorist attack or if it's just an arsonist who's also letting fires. And we have to enlist the help of some of the paramedics from Fire, and basically put them in harm's way, and let them walk a day in the life of the Chicago PD officers. And so that's kind of how the crossover kicks off. I love the story that we get to tell because mostly it's like chasing bad guys. It's like kicking in doors and, chasing bad guys and getting into crazy, gunfights and stuff like that. So it's like, it's I'm like a 12-year-old boy at heart, so it's an action movie for me. You know, that's why it's awesome.
The way your voice changed during that entire sequence was amazing. It's very exciting. I also feel like I'm like, yay, you guys, because I just joined, so I'm, sheepishly in the back being like, congratulations. But it's very exciting for everybody, and everyone works so hard. The crew, the writers, the cast, everybody. So it's huge congratulations to all of them and the fans. Such support. So it's very exciting to be a part of. Yeah.
Cool. And it feels like you've been here forever. We're all sick of her, so
that happens quickly. Yeah.
Totally. The crossover is almost everybody. We have Bowden and Dawson and Brett mostly, I think, in this episode. Actually, I think maybe even David comes over. I like everybody's in it. It's a huge crossover. But it's awesome. It's fantastic. It's a giant. It's like a giant fraternity here. It's one big party, and you get your cousins from, or your brother from another mother, and they come hang out for the day, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I haven't done one yet, but I'm very excited to do one. It sounds like a lot of fun, and I've met everybody just, in passing, and everyone's amazing. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to happen over to some of the other sets.
Yeah. It's fun. I think it's really cool for the fans because, they get to see like this one big universe that's all seamless, and people kind of, jumping from show to show. And if you love one show and you connect with these characters or this relationship over here, then sometimes you'll see it over here and on another show, and it's like it's one big escape, I think, for the fans. It's pretty cool.
It's really interesting, like having everybody, and it makes the city, like the show, come to life, having all the different, shows involved, I think.
No, I had no idea. There's no way of knowing, how well a show is going to do. You start a show and you're like, okay, we have this great cast, we have this great crew, and it's an amazing group of people, and the scripts are really good, and you start filming, but the show hasn't aired yet, so you don't know if the fans are, or if they're even going to have fans, if people are going to respond to it, and then you see the ratings, and then the fan base grows, and then Twitter's crazy, and people are always talking about it, and then people are tuning in every week, and then all of a sudden 5 years goes by and you're like, what? How did we get? This is crazy. How did this happen? And it's really cool, and it feels like something really special to be a part of. So I think we're all very grateful.
No, it's going to be a very, very different episode. I think we're going to surprise people, and I like that about our show. In 5 seasons, we found ways to continue to create and innovate new ways, I guess, to show these characters and, the lives of these heroes. Episode 100 is not going to be a disappointment at all.
The crossovers, I mean, they're clearly so much fun for the fans.
Yeah.
I always try to put myself in, like, their shoes and watch characters that you get close to and you care about. Yeah. And watch them coexist in like a big universe that happens over the course of 3 nights. I think that's pretty neat.
That's powerful. And in real life, not to cut you off, bro, but I think we're very honored to share this episode with Fire, though. They're like our big brothers or sisters, so
Absolutely.
to speak, and they hit 100 first. So naturally for them to kind of usher us into our 100th episode, I think that's pretty powerful and dope.
Yeah, we're slipstreaming off of Fire the whole time.
Pretty much.
From point A, we've just been right behind them like, our ride's easier than yours. It's, again, if it's exciting for the fans, it is in turn very exciting for us because they are kind of the most important part of the equation.
Yeah, that's what we do it for.
Without the fans' excitement, we don't really have much in the way of jobs. So,
So appreciate y'all.
Yes.
Yeah. Long story short,
extremely grateful. Extremely grateful. This 100 wouldn't even be possible if they didn't want 100. Like people have to want 100 episodes from a TV show in order for us to film this much. I remember when I first got on the show, I remember the first episode, day 1. First thing I had to do as a young cop in blue was like jump out of the car with my partner in Burgess and draw my weapon. And I did that in the most uncomfortable, awkward energy. And I remember in that moment, like, anxiety just taking my body over, and me being like, how am I gonna create a character that people care about enough to see for 100 episodes? And I remember like awkwardly with my gun being like, I'm not gonna be here long. This is not gonna work out for me. Because I remember how awkward and uncomfortable I felt. And now 100 episodes later, look at us, dog.
Spinning guns.
I know, right? Now I got like gun tricks. I'm like the next Django.
Obviously, there's some bombings going on around town, which is incredibly terrifying for the general public, obviously. But we also deal with social media and the good and the bad of social media. Mostly the bad in this episode, and how much power social media can have, and how, you know, social media unchecked, everybody just throwing out 140 characters or whatever it is on Twitter, and throwing their opinions in the mix, how things can turn into witch hunts. You know, we've got a guy that his life really gets turned upside down because he's a suspect, and that gets out to the public, and you know, he kind of stands trial in the public court online, and we deal with those aspects of you know, the way we communicate now these days.
We talk about how effective or ineffective social media can be in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
You know,
which is, I think, really cool that we'll take time to both tell a story that people can watch in a 2-hour stint of time, but at the same time we're making a larger commentary on where we are as a society,
and learning from it.
Which I think we've been doing really well this year, kind of doing that in every episode, where we've tried to make larger statements, you know, than just like, here's one more case for you to watch us solve.
And it's dope because, you know, our characters aren't perfect. You know, we make mistakes, and we find ourselves in situations where, you know, we don't always get the best end of the stick, but we still have to play characters that deal with their lives in a very human way, I think. And I think what makes the audience appreciate the show is that they see us like deal with real things, and the good and bad and ugly of ourselves kind of gets, you know, sprayed around every episode. You know, that makes it relatable. Yeah, 100, it came later than I thought it would, but sooner than I expected it, for a fact. For a fact. And, you know, when you're under, or when you're involved in an institution like, you know, Dick Wolf and his family, I think you almost expect this kind of longevity, but at the same time, it's one of those grateful moments that's so unbelievable that you just don't really, you know, you don't see it. I mean, yeah, we would probably expect it to make it this far, but when you actually do and you find yourself in this opportunity, it's extremely surreal, especially for a boy like me.
I've been doing this since I was 15 or 16, like working in film and in TV, and at a certain point, and maybe it's like you get a little jaded. I don't think it comes from anger, but you just kind of get a little like, I'm gonna accept that this is probably not gonna work out, because more often than not, it doesn't work out. You learn how to deal with rejection fairly quickly. So when it does work out, the surprise and the payoff is definitely there in a way that, like, I wasn't looking for it. And I think yesterday was kind of the first time where I really realized, like, holy crap, like, that's a big deal, being on a show. I mean, to even get a show, to even get in to see a casting director 2 times, to get a show, to have the show then go. I mean, the process that it takes to even get your show on TV, I don't think everybody understands how crazy that is. That's step 8. Just getting the show on TV. That's step 8, at least for on our end.
And we're talking about 2 young men, one of them being from a small farm town in Red Wing, Minnesota, another one being in probably the most dangerous place to ever grow up in Harvey, Illinois. And so, like, this, Rosewater is a powerful example of not just anything being able to happen, but you can do anything and do it 100 times.
Well said.
100 times.
And to contrast that, last night we had dinner with Dick, and we get there, I just, the sense that I get from Dick is like, yeah. I'm like, hey, Dick, 100 episodes. And he's like, uh-huh. It's like, well, what? I mean, 100. He's like, no, I know. I get it.
This
I'm
is
here
what
too.
I do.
I get it. This is how Dick Wolf does things.
pretty much, man. He's had like, how many, 30, 100 episode parties?
It's just insane.
It's a very big day. These are always true benchmarks, 100 episodes. And as I said last night when the cast was there, welcome to the first 100th episode party. So hopefully there'll be 2 or 3 more and turn into Law and Order. We were lucky. They were designed from day one to be able to do this. So it wasn't happenstance. I mean, strangely enough, we were sitting on a bridge over the river in the pilot of Fires, which is 7 years ago now, with Peter Jankowski, who's the president of Wolf Films, and I said, you know, there's more than one of these here. And unlike the other franchises, well, Law and Order specifically, those are 3 cop shows, so there wasn't many opportunities to do crossovers. I think we did 1. And this just lends itself to it, and very, very seamlessly. So it's a pleasure. It's like a spoiler alert. Tune in and see how seamless it is, but obviously it's a very big show. The explosions in this one are meaningful, so it's expensive but worth it. But tune in. You won't be disappointed. It starts on fire and ends on PD. Eriq probably doesn't want me reminding people of this, but I did a show here called, I was going to say Chicago Hope, but it was a hospital show in Chicago, Human Factor, 25 years ago, more. And Eriq was in it. It was 13 and out, but he wore his scrubs from the show to his ER audition. I said, thanks. He did pretty well there. And he's a really good director, and obviously understands directing episodic. He was directed for years, so it's a very good relationship, and he has a terrific relationship with the cast, and that's, in that job, it's really, really important.
Actually, as I started sort of making my foray into episodic directing, the very first job that I had was SVU. Yeah, so I directed HBO and Showtime, but as far as network episodic, so then I did a couple of SVUs, and so so they brought me back for this, and it was a nice click. And then when this position, when they approached me about coming on as a producer and being the main director, it was a no-brainer. So yeah, love the stories, love the world that we get to explore, and the characters. I think Voight's character is just so complex and doesn't feel like a network hero. He's this cool anti-hero, and I'm drawn to those types of characters, and you usually find those more on cable than you do on network. So it was a no-brainer for me. Yeah. As an actor, you really have one concern, which is you. And I'm not saying that in any kind of negative way. It's just who we are as actors. We think about what's our schedule, what days do we have off, etc. When you're a director, you're thinking about every element, from wardrobe to lighting to makeup to actor issues to the writing to, so it's much more inclusive, it's much more of a responsibility and much more accountability, so but I've been directing for a while, so you get used to that. Then you throw the element of being a producer in, and you start getting into conversations that you didn't necessarily have when you were a guest director, because when you're an episodic director, you go from one show to the other, which is what I've been doing for I guess like the last 10 years or so. And so you move around, but now this is your home, and every aspect of it sort of comes through you for the most part, and you have an opinion, you know what I mean, and you have input and you have influence, and it's a cool process. Well, I'm one of the new kids on the block, so this is my first year. So I mean, listen, the crew here and the actors and the writers and people have been humping to build this thing so that it lasts. And so I remember, on ER, there was a lot of pride in being there from the beginning. So I get to come in right now. The pride that I have is that although we're in our 5th season, everyone is saying how it feels like a first season. Like there's been a sort of rejuvenation, a rebirth of the show, and we're with Rick, the new showrunner, coming in, and the types of scripts and the types of subject matter. So my pride comes in from sort of helping to change the dynamic of the show. So I think that kind of sort of allows me to celebrate the milestone. It's a logistical nightmare getting these two shows together, because they're doing their production, we're doing our production, and but we make it work, and the payoff is worth it. They did one last year with all 3 shows, and I thought it was awesome. So you go through some schedule, okay, which not only are you scheduling your actors, you have to schedule their actors, and then they're simultaneously shooting their episode of and we're so it has all of these elements. It's a cool handoff because we're chasing a bomber, someone that is targeting victims and blowing them up, and so we're PD style, and then we realize that there is a connection to fire, a way that may help us to solve this case, and so we have to go to them and say, hey, this might be the way. So there's a very logical reason why this connection needs to happen, and why this crossover needs to happen. So it's we're working through it. I mean, it's a big episode, and I've got a lot of work ahead of me, as does the actors and the crew. But it's the 100th episode. It's got to be big, so.
You don't know better, too. 100! All eyes right here, please. There we go.
Right here in the middle. And then looking at Tim right here.
I see you, Jess.
Jess,
Hang on.
hold on.
Everybody looking right at me?
Looking right here, Tim.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
And 2 right here, please. Thank you. Can I take 2 right
Remember.
here, please?
Just one.
Right here. Guys up here?
Good. How are you? One more right here. There we go. One more right here. There we go. Good. Right here.
Guys up here?
Good. How are you? One more right here. There we go. One more right here. There we go. Good. Just take out the bottom window. Can you cheat this way, Jason? There we go. Cheat this. There we go. Great. Looking right at this. Looking right good with that cut, Jason. There we go.
Hold on.
You have to cut these off.
That's not bad. Oh, there's
Very good. It's just frosting. My favorite.
This is for Patty.
Smash it in his face.
Oh, I only got one plate? One plate. Patty, just open your mouth. Turn on upside down. It's like the old beer day. Yeah, there you go. All right. Okay. There you go. Cake cutting.
Hey, Patty. Word is word. Turn this word.
Okay.
Did I do pretty well?
Okay.
Gigantic mouth hole in my face.
Anybody else?
That's how.
Would you care for the top floor or more of the roof?
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you realize that these little action figures are edible?
Hey, yo, Patty, right here.
That's good.
There we go.
He's finishing up here, and then we'll go over. Yeah.
Every single person I know has two profiles. It's just for privacy.
Privacy, that's not private, it's hiding.
You're making those photos into something you're not. You can't trust the internet, Dad. It always looks worse than it is. If you would just let me explain it to you instead of you seizing my phone without cause.
We're not staying. I'm going to do the paperwork at home.
Hey, Eva, what's up?
Father's a fascist.
Cool. I don't know what to say to that.
Eva, you post your whole life in that thing. I don't need you to explain. I can see exactly what you're doing, exactly who you are. And I got to say, I don't like who you've become very much.
What the hell was that? Cut. Here.
Set.
You post your whole life on that thing. I don't need you to explain. I can see exactly what you're doing, exactly who you are. I got to say, I don't like who you've become very much.
Who's doing the reading in here, guys? Who's reading? Who? Just a little louder, please. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, guys, here we go.
Trying to tell you what I do.
And action!
Every single person I know has two profiles. It's just for privacy.
That's not privacy, that's hiding.
You're making those photos into something you're not, okay? You can't trust the internet, Dad. It always looks worse than it is. If you just let me explain it to you instead of using my phone without cause.
Oh, this is like Christmas.
Visually, it takes some of the weight.
That's what the BAM is.
By this point, you did the smiling earlier when you were trying. Now it's just you're getting more and more irritated. You're getting more and more irritated. She's lying to you. She's playing you for a fool. She's playing you for an idiot that you don't even have the right to say the truth and to say. So both of you are becoming increasingly more frustrated with each other. All right? So keep that honest edge. I don't want the TV dad and daughter edge. I want some real edge. Okay? Keep that edge. All right? Here we go. All right, guys, ready? There we go. And action!
Yes, Platt's on in two. Adam! Antonio!
I'm not staying. I'm doing the paperwork at home.
What's up?
Father's a fascist.
Cool.
Yo, be quiet, everybody. Platt's up.
Okay, guys, let's have fun. Here we go. Let's have fun with it. Ready? And action!
Woo woo! You guys, Platt's on in two. Adam! Antonio!
Not staying. I'm doing the paperwork at home.
Eva, what's up, kid?
Father's a fascist.
Yo, everybody be quiet. Platt's up now.
Well, this is like Christmas.
Back with your mouth doesn't mean stop following my rules. You don't lie, you don't drink.
Let me explain. I wasn't drinking. I did go to parent house and then...
You don't get to debate this. You can post your whole life on that thing. Right? I don't need you to explain. Yeah. can see exactly what you do, exactly what you are. And I don't like you to come very much.
That wasn't fair.
The sound?
What the hell is that?
Boom! God, Brett, give me my money!